So what did I learn about Japan? What did I learn about Japan while in Japan? Because while I'm there, I was talking to a lot of people about the Japanese economy. It's my favorite subject. If I can talk to somebody about the economy of their country, I love doing it. I like learning. I like asking people what's going on, boots on the ground. Talking to the groom about his experience working at Amazon in Japan was crazy. About how the valuation of the yen has been fucking them. I mean, they feel it, bro. People that live and work in Japan feel the yen devaluation very acutely. It might seem like, oh, whatever, who cares? Especially if you're a tourist, but it is annoying. So I started talking with them about that. But the things I learned about Japan are, number one, the baby crisis is fucking real. There is a baby crisis in Japan. Massive, massive baby crisis. They have a 1.2 fertility rate, one of the lowest in the world. You need like 2.4 for replacement rate, meaning keep your population stable. So you need to basically have 2.4 births per fertile woman or whatever to have a stable population that's not shrinking. They are shrinking rapidly. There's only one country really worse, that's South Korea. South Korea has its own massive problems. Talk about that another time. South Korea is the worst. But Tokyo's terrible. You don't even see a lot of kids. I mean, we walked around a lot. Dude, we went to a gigantic projected Godzilla battle on the side of a building. They projected Godzilla fighting on the side of a building, and there was like 5 kids there. I'll get a video for it. I'll try to get a video. It was cool as hell. It was cool as hell. There was like no kids. Anyway, and even if we did see some kids, that's in Tokyo, which is like far better than other parts of the country in terms of the economy. So it's bad. So what I was saying is, what I learned is, though, what's interesting about Tokyo is that they are finally taking it seriously. Serious. Look at me a serious face. Serious. They're locking in. A bunch of things rolled out or were announced while I was in Japan. So number one, they announced that all government employees are going to start getting 4-day work weeks. So first of all, that's a lot of employees. They're doing 4-day work weeks to try and give you more time to have kids. Secondly, if you do have kids, you can get up to 2 hours off a day. So you can subtract, like instead of working 8 hours, you work 6, which is kind of insane. So you can have a 4-day work week with 6-hour work days. Because they're like, we need kids desperately. Oh, and then the third main thing, there's like tax credit stuff and other things that like are not. But the third main thing, free pre-K for everyone. The schooling's already free in Japan. It's already paid for everything else for like, I think through college if you want it. I mean, they have a very nice system for that, but for children under kindergarten, didn't have anything. Now they have free pre-K. The idea is like, if they reduce the hours and reduce the cost, people will start boning. Now, I'm not sure about that because when I went to that cafe to stream the Game Awards, there was like, I don't know how to say this politely, there's like walls and walls and walls of anime books and like stalls to go read them in. Like that was a business model. That's what it looked like to me. So anyway, well, I don't know if it's gonna turn around the NEETs, but I think this is a good, this is like they're making efforts. This is like what I saw was a government realizing it's a crisis, realizing they have almost no time to act, and is trying big, bold measures to try and turn around the birth rate because it's a problem. Now, the second thing is, so you guys know how some of you are American, right? Say USA proudly if you're an American, okay? Put on a flag. Say K Kona, don't tread on me. So in America, we have something that I didn't even really fully appreciate the value of. But let's say there's a job in San Francisco. SF has expensive housing, all right? It has good salaries, but expensive housing. So let's say you're like, I don't want to live in SF. It's too expensive. You can go, let's say, to Denver, and you might get paid slightly less, but the cost of living is also proportionately less. Or you can go to Austin, Texas, and you can still get a good salary. You can get a good salary and pay less. It's all getting more expensive, don't get me wrong, but they're not as expensive as here. For every like cost of living / salary band that you want, there's a lot of options. You can move. If you're willing to move, you can kind of find something with jobs. There's a lot of growing areas in America. In a place like the UK, this is it. There's only one spot with all the good jobs, and it's London. It's a London-only economy. The second you leave London, try and get lower cost of living, your salary drops dramatically. It is London. It's a London-based economy, and in fact, it's getting worse. more of the capital of the country is flowing into London. London is becoming like almost a different nation. So that's a big problem in the UK. Like a lot of young people in the UK who don't want to leave their country have to move to London for opportunity. You can't go anywhere else. So it's not great. Japan is not as bad as the UK, but it is becoming close with Tokyo. So this is one thing I learned while I was in Japan. Tokyo is definitely growing as like the economic opportunity spot in Japan. So outside of Tokyo, it's becoming more and more difficult to get the good jobs, like Seoul, South Korea. Yeah. So that was one thing I learned. The third thing I learned, and this is a good thing, I want to say some good parts too. Number 3, Japan has the most, I already knew this, but like this really solidified it. Japan has the most insane social cohesion. Bro, they can have all these problems and everybody in Japan is like polite and nice. And you know what I noticed? You know what really clicked for me in Japan? There's like streets that I walk on in Tokyo, which are like this far apart, and I'm here and there's a red light, like a walk sign, but it's red. Everyone will wait. I have never not jaywalked that in my entire life, but because nobody's doing it, I can't. I'm like looking around. I don't want to be the only guy. It's a very, very, very like everyone is following the rules. No cars coming, and everyone just waits for the full walk sign, and then it goes and they all go. It's shocking. It's just a true blue. Everything. Everyone's super polite. Everything runs on time. They have everything's clean. The real thing you'll notice about Tokyo is just how clean the city is. Incredibly clean city, and incredible public transport. We used buses and trains and everything. It was incredible. They have that going for them, and some growth areas. Nintendo is still a globally competitive, incredible company. Their car companies are encountering resistance from China, but still are globally competitive, incredible companies. There's green shoots there, but difficult problem. Okay, here's the fourth thing. And this is why it's all in trouble, all right? Here's why it's all in trouble. And this is why some of this, there's been some political unrest, which is rare for Japan. And that's because this is a catch up. I didn't learn this time I know this, but number 4, Japanese debt is absurd. It's the worst in the world. Japanese debt to GDP is the worst in the world. It's like 240%. Something absolutely fucking absurd. They have an economy where the government is just constantly borrowing / printing money to maintain some of this social cohesion. This is like the real core problem at it. It's like what kills growth. And I think what has made the country hard to adapt. Everything is so entrenched and all goes through the government. The government literally buys stocks. It's absurd. I don't know how once it gets to this level, I don't know how you can't grow your way out of it, really. I'm not sure. Japan is the canary in the coal mine for the rest of the world on how insane debt to GDP will go. And we'll have to watch it closely, but it really is stark. Pull off in Argentina. The problem is Japan is deeper in debt even than Argentina was. Although with a better credit rating and economy. So maybe they could. Let's not say Argentina's pulled it off yet. They haven't pulled it off yet. I like where they're headed, but they haven't pulled it off yet. That was like the main stuff I learned. I those 4 things like really crystallize what's going on in Japan for me. Some of these problems are not unique, but they're uniquely Japanese in how they're applied to Japan. Like they have a unique amount of debt. They have a uniquely low birth rate, and they're hitting there first. So Japan is like a really interesting country to watch for a lot of the problems that like Europe and America and other countries are going to start facing. Do you think the London issue is because of geography or how differences in the 2 economies work? What are the 2 economies you're talking about? You mean America? The London issue, I wouldn't compare it to America. Just even compared to like France or Germany or anything, the UK is extra bad. Like France has Paris, which is like their big city, which has a lot of the economic opportunity, but France still has growing areas outside of Paris. The UK doesn't really. It's a chart. What is this? Oh, look at this. Britain's economy is highly London-centric. Without the capital, the UK would be poorer per head than Mississippi. Yeah, you can just see how London-heavy it is. And then you see all these cities, right, above the line in US. But even in Netherlands and even in Germany, like Germany's having economic problems, but they have a lot of growing areas. It's not concentrated at one spot. I think London just being like tech and financial and cultural and everything capital of the UK has all of the opportunity. It's wild.